All right, we are back with another episode of Real Talk. Jeff here. Brad, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing pretty good. Looking forward to week 3.
Yeah, dude. Week 2 in the books. Moving on to week 3. I love football. I enjoying football. It was actually a very good weekend for me football wise. So I'm on top of the world. Looking forward to week 3 as well. Last week we tried something. We tried obviously Tuesdays last year. We just did power rankings every week, and that's fun and stuff. But we decided to try a little Q&A back and forth from ourselves and opened up some discussion. We're going to do that again. So I have a couple of questions here. First off, before we even get started, I just want to say this. So, are you familiar with the inverted jerseys?
No, I'm
So,
not sure what that means.
so they're not something that the players are going to wear on the field, at least not this year. But NFL.com released a bunch of inverted jerseys. So it's your team's colors, but they're something that look just they contrast a little bit. They're like different.
Yeah,
These ones here, just got this here. It's a Johnny Smith. It's gray, silver. So it
yeah,
looks like the road jersey, but it's silver. So it's kind of sweet. Like the Steelers is like an all yellow jersey,
yeah. So
kind
I
of like
didn't
a
know.
color rush.
Yeah, I didn't know they're inverted, but I have two all yellows, and the website I got them off said reverse color rush. So instead of all black, everything was
Yes.
flipped to yellow. So I have two of
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Okay. They are sweet. I just wanted to say that. If you guys haven't checked out the inverted jerseys, go check those puppies out. They're pretty cool. Got Johnny Smith today. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and get to the questions. Are you about ready?
Yeah, fire away.
All right. Um, let's start with let's start with this question. I think this is fairly easy. There's a couple of cool options here. What team had the best bounce back win after losing week 1?
I think it's unquestionably the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills lose to the Steelers, who appear to be a pretty weak team. Dolphins are coming off of a win. Everyone's wondering what they're going to be. They beat them 35 to nothing. Kind of put themselves back atop the AFC East along with the 1-1 Patriots, 1-1 Dolphins. It is an open one, but I think going on the road down to Miami after losing week 1 questions if you're going to be the same team you were last year, and they actually just shellac the Miami Dolphins. That was just a quick answer off the top of my head. I guess the Titans would be a pretty good answer, being able to beat the Seahawks on the road. And
Only because of how you answered it. It's not your answer because the Bills is a very good answer. It's basically when you said I don't think there's another. It's unquestionably like well, there. I mean, the Titans won, but
yeah,
actually for me, the number one would be the Ravens. So not only did they lose on the road Monday night, week 1, against a team that I think they're going to be better than, but the following week they beat what a lot of people would be as their kryptonite, the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought that was a huge bounce back win. It was at home, so obviously the Bills had to go on the road. That one's bigger. The Titans though had to go on the road too into Seattle, a very tough place to play. They flexed their guns a little bit in the second half of that game. A couple of teams stick out, obviously. Packers potentially, if you want to say them, obviously as bad as they looked week 1 to come back and just get some sort of W would be good. Go
yeah.
ahead. What do you got for me?
I was just curious, out of all the teams, all the players, offensive and defensive, who do you have as your MVPs of week 2?
Just the week.
Yeah, just week 2.
Man, this is going to sound awfully homerish, but defensive player of the week, J.C. Jackson picked off Zach Wilson twice. Could have had a third one. Zach Wilson, and I don't know if we're going to really talk about him today at all. I'll go a little bit into it. It's about as careless as I've seen a quarterback play in a long time.
Yeah,
I just couldn't believe how many balls are just sailing through the air and are 3 of the 4 picks he threw weren't even. There wasn't a shot his receiver was going to catch it. It was directly to New England. It was really
right.
embarrassing to watch, and it would. If you're a Jets fan, I'm sure you were a little bit frustrated. But so J.C. Jackson would probably get defensive player of the week for me. Offensive player of the week, I'd love to go Tom Brady, but I'm going to give it to Derrick Henry, the King Henry. When his team looked like, let's back up. Week 1, he was a
Oh,
non-factor, just non-factor. Looked like he didn't exist. Week 2, fantasy owners are probably thinking to themselves, "What did I do drafting Derrick Henry?" Because the first half he had, I think he may have had 7 total points, like 30 yards rushing, not a lot. And then all of a sudden, that second half into overtime, you see the king step on the field, and you'd be hard pressed to not say he was the best player from week 2.
I have the same 2 answers, and I remember turning on that Titans game, and they were going in to score it to tie it up, and they were on like the 12-yard line, and it said Seattle Seahawks second half yards 134, Derrick Henry second half yards 139, and I was like, what happened in the because the game was not watchable at halftime. I was like, I'm not gonna go watch that game. Like, there's other games on right now, and wow, Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
Best running back in the league, probably.
He's the man. I have my next question here.
Yeah.
Here are I'm going to read you a list of teams. I want you to tell me which one has the best chance to not go 3-0.
Best chance to not go 3-0.
Yep, these are all 2-0 teams. You got the 49ers, you got the Rams, you got the Cardinals, Broncos, Buccaneers, Panthers, Raiders. Unfortunately, I don't have who they play in front of me.
Right. I'm gonna go through some of these, and I'm gonna answer your question with 2 teams at the end. Actually, let me just go through it. Who was the first team?
So the first one's the 49ers.
Okay, the 49ers are at home against the Packers.
I'll do this one with you. Go ahead.
That's gonna be a tough game. I've got the 49ers, but they don't have like a super high chance of being 3-0 since they play the Packers.
So I also have that as a win. Wouldn't be shocked to see them lose.
Right.
Next
one.
Sorry. Yeah. Rams.
Skip them.
The Buccaneers. They play the Bucs.
So one of those teams are going down, and it's not even worth predicting, but those are the 2 teams that have the least amount of chance to go 3-0 since they're playing each other.
By the way, I literally cannot wait for that game. It's going to be incredible.
It's going to be a great game. How's it not a primetime game? I don't know, but I'll watch it.
It is.
4:25.
We've been through this. Okay.
It's a televised game.
Correct. It's nationally televised. Sorry, it's not primetime. It's nationally televised.
But yes, we'll all be able to watch it.
Cardinals.
Cardinals are beating the Jags. The Panthers are beating the Texans, and the Broncos are beating the Jets.
Oh, wow.
All 3 of them play probably the 3 weakest teams in the NFL, possibly. I mean, we didn't put the Lions in there. We all know how we feel about the Lions, but
who do the Raiders got?
The Raiders play the Dolphins. They're at home, and I mean, I'm taking the Raiders after what I've seen through 2 weeks. Really like what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Great stuff. Question for me?
Obviously, I think every team got hit with at least one, but there was just every time you went to social media or a red zone channel or halftime break, the amount of injuries that were all over week 1, quarterbacks, defensive players, wide receivers, right, the whole 9. Do you think that's correlated with the shrink in preseason and the adaptation of like more coaches not playing their starters in preseason? Or do you think it's just, sometimes people get hurt? But we're now in week 2 and we saw, probably 15 really notable guys go down with injuries. Do you think it's showing that the preseason needs to be played more?
Yeah, I understand the question. I just don't know that there's a great way to answer this. So I will say this. Do I think that you can avoid injury by playing more? No. Do I think you can avoid injury by playing less? In theory, yes, but no. Does that make sense? In theory, if you're not playing, you're not going to get hurt. But at the same time, it's not good to not play. Your body's not used to it, things like that. It's really hard to say, man. I truthfully think that the game of the current state of the NFL, I think one of the reasons we see more injuries than ever before is how much faster the game is played. I think that has a lot to do with it. I truly do. I don't think there's a correlation between like playing, not playing, and 3 preseason games versus, I thought it was really nice that they had the 3 preseason games and then they had a week bye. We haven't done that. We usually get off on a Thursday, okay? Yep. And then we kick off the following. Usually, the last preseason games played on like a Thursday or Friday, and then we kick off that following Thursday for NFL
Right.
kickoff, and then there's games on Sunday. We finished the season on like a Thursday, Friday, had an entire week, and then there was a Thursday.
Yeah.
It was like 12 days and off. So I don't really know. The famous Bill Belichick, he has a great line for this. Tell me when a player's going to get hurt, and I won't play him. Okay. And then his second famous quote that he has when it comes to injuries is, "I'm not a fucking doctor." It's so hard to honestly say like when somebody's going to get hurt. It's just one of those things, man. I don't know how else to say it. I don't. Do you have a? What's your opinion? I'll let you go in on this.
I do think players should play in the preseason a little bit more because I look at it in stages. Like, you're practicing, and then the preseason gets you snaps in a competitive environment against other teams to kind of warm up your body. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're just taking baby steps. Play a series, a quarter, a half, and then you get into the full game. It's kind of working your body up. I still feel like if you're not playing in the preseason, practice does a lot. But you get into the game after that first week, you might make it through, but your body's in such shock that you go out there a week later and do it again, and that's when the injuries really start to happen. I think if you were to ask a doctor, I mean, I'm not obviously, but if you were to ask a doctor and they said, with no preseason, where do you think the most injuries would show up? Late in the season, early, they would probably say week 2. They'll be okay for a week just off of being fresh. Week 2 and 3 is when I think you would see the most injuries. In hindsight, we probably could have saw this coming, but I mean, I just thought it was shocking how many players were getting hurt, and
Well, I mean,
a lot of
but
them. You look at a lot of them in their groins or MCLs, ACLs. Like, it's not like bruised like bones or breaks or stuff like that. Like, it's a lot of like just ligaments and stuff, like stretching and getting used to I don't know. I just don't think we've ever seen this many injuries early like we have in back-to-back seasons when like the preseason was more of an emphasis.
let me say two things. First off, so like New England played there in the preseason. All their starters played all 3 games for the most part. There was some couple holdouts. I know Hunter Henry was a little banged up. For the most part, they played all 3 games, and we haven't had any major injuries yet. Knock on wood.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to say was, as far as playing in the preseason, I forget the analyst that said it. I'm not even going to try and remember, but basically, it was basically said a lot of these coaches aren't playing players in the preseason because a lot of them are adapting to what Bill Belichick's been doing for years, but a lot more coaches are doing this. The joint practices. A lot of them had at least 2 joint practices. So if you're playing a team week 3, right, or week 2 in your preseason, you're going to link up with that team for a whole week, okay? And what happens is you get live reps against another defense, against another team you're playing really vanilla, but they can't take live action against the quarterback in those practices. So that's why you didn't see guys like Dak play in the preseason. Guys like Baker never played in the preseason. There's a ton of guys that didn't play in the preseason because they were getting those live reps. So I see it both ways. We could talk about this for literally an hour because this is an in-depth conversation that is completely opinionated because there's no facts behind it. It's just what we're correlating it with. So it's tough to say. Great question. I don't know how much you're into this stuff. I tend to like stuff like this, but I'm going to ask you to put on your GM hat. Are you ready?
Uh-oh. Okay.
And I'm giving you this player because I know you back him more than I do. What would you do with Baker Mayfield? And don't just say pay him. I guess I'm asking you, how much would you pay him? Would you use the franchise tag first? Would you let this play out? Would you sign him now? Would you sign him late? Would you try to negotiate I'm asking you to give me what you think what you would do with him, not even what the Browns would do. What would you do with Baker? Because I know you like him.
I'm paying Baker Mayfield. I'm gonna try my bet. I mean, there's got to be a cutoff at some point. Like Colin put up, the last 10 Super Bowl winners, or what was it? The last 10 quarterbacks to be in a Super Bowl, and is the percentage of salary cap that they are.
Yeah.
I don't think Baker's numb to that, so I wouldn't. Gosh, what's the top quarterbacks being paid a year? 40 a year.
It's over 40 now.
Yeah,
Josh is getting paid over 40.
Lamar will, Patrick Mahomes.
Lamar will.
Yeah.
Mahomes is at 50 million.
I'm looking at Baker, and I would like to pay him somewhere between 33 and 38 million a year. Put him somewhere around like the seventh highest paid quarterback in the league. I just think I think he's good enough. I think he was good. He was great in college, and he's been hit or miss with all the terrible coaches that he's had under Kevin Stefanski. I mean, he played brilliantly last year. They made it really far, won a playoff game, and then coming into this year through 2 games, he's got his highest QBR and highest completion percentage. That's with Jarvis missing 3 quarters and OBJ missing 8. Obviously, you got to do what you can to keep the running backs, but that's why they signed Nick Chubb already. They already got that deal done. So I think it starts and ends with Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield. I think the wide receivers are replaceable. But I just think that when you find your quarterback, you have to pay him. And I think Baker's the perfect quarterback for Cleveland. And I would sign him. I'd pay him in the mid-30s. You know, if we're talking about quarterbacks being paid, like the top quarterbacks being paid 38 plus, I would love to get Baker on the 34 million a year mark. But then again, I'm not good at GM stuff, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think you got a good thought process because you view him as a top 7 quarterback. So what you're saying isn't crazy. I don't view him there. And personally, you listen to what Colin said. There's a cutoff, and I believe the cutoff is like 12.5. The only quarterback that's ever gone with higher than 12 is like Tom Brady once.
It's actually 10. I think it was 10. And Brady's the only one who's won it with over 10. It was like at 11.1% or something.
So personally, right now the cap is like 198. Okay, and it's down this year because of COVID and all that. It's projected to go up to about 225, and then the following year back to about 250 where it was, and then keep going. So I would ask Baker to take less than that 10%. That's just me. And I think where I would come in at, so 225 would be 25 million, right? But going up, you have 250. Wait, that's 25 million. Okay. The 225 is only 22 million a year. So projecting it to go up, I think what I would do is say, hey, I'm looking to pay you 25 million over the course of 5 years, which is 125, and I would fully guarantee it. But if he doesn't want to do that, because I understand that's a low amount, I would say, okay, I'm looking at 30, but I'm not going to fully guarantee it, because there's got to be some give and take. I can't envision myself paying Baker Mayfield more than Myles Garrett. Let's just say that. Because Myles Garrett, in my opinion, he's their best player. And I understand he's quarterback and all that, but at some point there has to be a pecking order. You see what I mean?
If I was the Browns, I would give up Myles Garrett before Baker Mayfield. Quarterbacks are more important.
All right. Yeah.
Quarterback.
I would truly love, and I don't think we bring this up enough because we have tons of Browns followers. I would love to know where people rank Baker on the Browns, not in the league, because I know Browns lovers love Baker and they're going to put him in their top 10 all day long. Where do you rank Baker as far as most important Brown? I think I'm going to put that up on the pod. I'm going to put that question up.
I think he's the most important, but when you talk like where they rank at their individual positions, Myles Garrett's like a higher pass rusher than the ones he's compared to, and Nick Chubb at running back.
Yeah.
And then I think Baker Mayfield would be the third best Brown, especially being the quarterback as well. But if you were to ask, we can ask it on the Facebook page and you guys listening, if I'm a Browns fan and someone said, hey, the next 6 years, we're going to go into it without Myles Garrett, or we're going to go into it with Case Keenum, I think they would say
you're being drastic though, because I don't think that Case Keenum's the next option. Okay, that's the backup. So if Baker got hurt today, sure. But if we're talking next season, there's going to be options. There's drafting quarterbacks, there's free agents, there's trading. There's more to it than that.
They're good to draft high now. They're too good to be in the top 10 picks to get a quarterback.
No, you're right. You're not wrong. Yeah, you're right with that.
I mean, they would have to do some crazy stuff. I just think
could you agree with this? They're loaded enough to trade up now.
Yeah, I guess, but
they don't need players.
Browns fans that I know, they love Myles Garrett and they love to talk about him.
Yeah.
But Baker's their guy. Like they've had plenty of other guys at different positions. They love Josh Cribbs. They love Myles Garrett. They love this guy and that guy. But Baker is the first time that a lot of our friends, this is the first quarterback they've ever had, Tim Couch.
No.
They get
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right.
I don't think I
The
think
Browns have never had a franchise quarterback ever in our lifetime.
and Baker's not only like taking the French, he kind of drugged some bad coaches to a little bit better records. And then when Kevin Stefanski walked in, they've just been perfect together. They've just been amazing. I think Baker's doing just fine. I would pay him. Now again, the amount of money may be crazy, but when you talk about, other quarterbacks getting paid 40, maybe he could go 30, and I'd love to get him at that price. But I think I would go up to 34 million for Baker Mayfield if I'm the Browns, especially with the fact that Kevin Stefanski's not going to go through quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's fair. You got another question for me? Because otherwise I got one more.
No, you can go ahead and give me your last one.
All right, so 17-game season this year. Okay. That alone, adding an extra game, is going to open up the idea that there could be some NFL records broken.
Right.
So right now, Tom Brady has 9 touchdowns. Derek Carr has over 800 yards passing. Chandler Jones has 5 sacks. I just figured I'd ask you, do you think there will be an NFL record broken this year?
I do.
Let me put it this way real quick, for you to even go there. So there's been 3 guys that have thrown 50 touchdowns in a year. Peyton Manning 55, Brady 50, Patrick Mahomes 50. But it's not done often. Matter of fact, even the 40 mark isn't done very often. So just to assume that a bunch of guys are going to hit 50 this year, I don't think is. I would tread lightly with that. But go ahead, answer the question however you feel.
One of them will be broken. I don't know which one particularly, but I look at how close Derrick Henry's been, and he's getting an extra game. And I believe his week 2 performance put him over the on pace mark to reach over 2,000 yards. You'd have to say with Gronk, AB, Mike Evans, Godwin, without any injuries in a second place schedule, you'd have to say that Brady is going to be able to put up maybe 60 touchdowns and break that record. Passing yards, I mean, the Raiders have a third place schedule, I believe, right? Or the Chargers and Broncos worse than them last year? Maybe they have a second place. But either way,
second or third.
You look at what the Raiders have been doing in Derek Carr. I mean, Henry Ruggs playing better. Hunter Renfro's playing good. They have another guy, I forget his name, but Darren Waller, obviously.
Ryan Edwards.
Yeah, so when you look at what Derek Carr's doing, I mean, even some other guys can start having big games, but I don't know which one. But having the extra game, I think we have a few guys who are going to be able to come close. Even Christian McCaffrey in all-purpose yards in a season.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been tearing it up through 2 weeks, so I don't want to try and predict which one, but I do think a record will go down, and we're going to have discussions all offseason, probably the rest of forever, on, yeah, but they had an extra game to do it. It was a pass-heavy era, this and that.
Yeah.
People get lost in comparing. I like comparing statistics of people who are playing at the same time. I don't like comparing eras. That's why I don't really get too big into GOAT talks most of the time. I just like to enjoy watching the greatest players when they're at their peak. So
that's fair. Are we ready for some good teams?
I think so.
All right.
A few good ones out there.
Yeah. You know what? You know what we never do? We never give any love to the bad teams. You get one. Who's the worst team in the league right now?
Worst team in the league right now?
Yeah. Off the top of your head.
A few floating around.
Yeah, I'm between 2. I have a feeling you're going to say something. I'm going to hard disagree.
I'm thinking Jags.
Okay. I thought you were going to say Lions, and it's not.
The Lions are not. Lions are the 3rd or 4th, but
I think they're probably 3rd, potentially. Yeah, 4th's fair too.
Looking at the Texans now without Tyrod Taylor too, and that's not a good situation.
As soon as they lost Tyrod, they went from literally being like maybe a 5-win team to like maybe just a 1. Maybe their only win came week 1, like just like that quick. I think it's the Jets. I don't like what the Jets are. I think they're bad. I think they are overall bad. We'll see.
I think
Jag,
they're going to have a chance to put up some points. I just think playing against Bill Belichick, Zach Wilson, it's recency bias.
no, it's not even that. So the Jets' three best players:
Yeah.
Mekhi Becton, C.J. Mosley.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know a third.
Mekhi
Mekhi
Becton
Becton.
right now, I think.
He's out. He didn't even play week 2. He's out for a couple more. I think they're rough. And
No.
watching them against New England, and I've said we're a 12-win team. I think I overshot it. I'll say it now. If you're listening to the pod, you know I won't repeat it again. So I think I overshot the 12 wins. I don't know. I just think that I don't think the Jets are very good.
I don't either.
They're going to struggle to win a lot of games. All right. Who's going first? Me or you?
Oh, you went first last week. I can go first this week.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll start off with number 10, a team that really had a bad second half and lost, but I still think is a great team. The Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to have them at number 10. They play in a tough division, but Russ, I believe, has the best QBR in the league right now. I'm not 100% on that. But for some reason, they just struggled in the second half. I think they got complacent, thought they buried the Titans, and Derrick Henry came back with a vengeance. I think they'll be able to bounce back. Number 9, Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, they're 2-0. They're 2 wins of. I mean, when you look at Derek Carr's statistics in the pass game, and he's played the Ravens defense and the Steelers defense. Injuries or not, they've had some to themselves. You have to love what they're doing over there. And Derek Carr, man, he has progressed each year, and he seems to continue to get better. Number 8, they were saved by some bad kicking play, but the Cardinals are still going to be on my list at number 8. One of the most electric offenses. Got to love what Kyler's doing down there. One of the twitchiest players. There's some overreaction that a lot of people are saying they'd take Kyler over Russell Wilson. I think we should pump the brakes on that talk for people out there. I get that that's a comparison, but Kyler's exciting, but you'd still take Russell in a draft. Let's not overreact. Number 7, come from off my list up to number 7, the Ravens. They lost a close game week 1. Some people, including myself, punished them because they lost to the Raiders. Raiders are probably better than we thought they were. At least everyone except Raiders fans thought that they were. So I'm not going to punish them too much for the Raiders loss. And anybody who beats the Chiefs has to have a pump in numbers. Lamar Jackson's ridiculous. Number 6, 49ers. They're having a lot of injuries at the running back position and in the secondary, so you start to have questions about how far they can go. But when you look at their perimeter players on the wide receiver and tight end mark, they've got good pieces out there, and their lines, both their D-line and offensive line, are pretty dominant. It was a big battle against the Eagles. That was my upset of the week. Ended up falling short. But they're going to be able to move the line of scrimmage in their favor most games. Number 5, Bills. Huge bounce back win, 35-0 against the Miami Dolphins. Didn't want to drop them outside the top 5. I believe they were 7 on my list last week, but that was an absolute dog walking that they did last week. Impressive. Number 4, Browns, top 5 roster in the NFL. Beat the Houston Texans by 10. Had a very close loss to the Chiefs, so I'm going to have them at number 4. Number 3, I have the Chiefs. The thing is when you have the Chiefs, their offense there's nothing that needs to be said about the offense. They're absolutely ridiculous. But the defense, they struggled against the Browns and they struggled very badly against the Ravens. Again, a lot of people will point out those are the 2 best rushing teams, maybe outside of Tennessee, in the NFL. And maybe that's just their weakness. But whatever the case, their defense has a lot of questions to be asked. And I'm going to have them at 3. Number 2 and number 1 play this weekend. So I don't know how I'm going to move the loser. But I obviously publicly apologized last week. I'm sorry for not believing in the Rams. This team looks very dominant on both sides of the ball. They had a bad game and still beat the Colts, who I know aren't a team to write home about, but the Colts at home off a loss, and they still beat them, having not a very great game. And then number 1, Man, the only way they're going to move from number 1 is they're going to have to lose. And to be honest with you, they play the Rams this weekend. We'll see, but Brady looks ridiculous. The running backs look good. The offensive line's great. They've got weapons everywhere in offense. The front 7 is heat-seeking missiles everywhere. Some questions at secondary. We'll have to keep an eye on it. They've reached out to Richard Sherman. We'll see how that progresses and if anything happens there. But Tampa Bay is going to be number 1, and it's going to take something special to move them off that spot.
We have the exact same 10 teams.
Different order or?
Different order. Yep. And I'll go into my order here in a second. Who's your 11th? I'm forcing you to pick one. Who's 11? Unless you have like a tie.
No, I'll pick an 11th team, but it's only I didn't want to put them on the list simply because the 2 teams that they beat, but it's the Broncos. They beat they're 2-0 and they beat both teams handily, but it was the Giants and the Jaguars. But I was huge on the Giants in preseason, or the Broncos in preseason. Yeah. They've won 2 games, looked good in both. Moving on to week 3. And again, we just talked about it. The Broncos play the Jets week 3. So the Broncos are probably going to be 3-0, but it's going to be Giants, Jags, Jets. So jury's still out on them. I didn't want to put them above other teams. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I still like the Chargers a lot. I thought they really lost that game against the Cowboys. I still think they're a better team. Still high on the Eagles, and they put up a good fight. The Patriots didn't look great against the Dolphins, but then obviously they destroyed the Jets, so I'd like to see them play a team. I need to see more out of them. Saints dropped out because the Panthers killed them, and the Panthers are another team. I forgot about them. Panthers are right there at number 11 too. They're a 2-0 team. I totally understand that, but they beat the Jets again, yes. And then they did beat the Saints, but the Saints were without their best corner and 6 offensive coaches, and you could tell that affected them. Want to see one more game out of the Panthers, but if somebody asked, Colin does the questions that he wants to answer but aren't asked. If someone's asking me right now, I can't pick the Steelers. What would be a super fun Super Bowl that would back what I've been saying in the preseason? Broncos Panthers would be really fun for me from a neutral perspective. 2 different teams getting there. Actually, I think the Broncos played the Panthers in the
Super Bowl 50.
Yeah, so a little rematch there, but we'll see if that's a long way away. But yeah, Broncos and Panthers. If I had to lock in 2, because I was just going through the teams, yeah, I didn't write them down, but they're both 2-0, and they both barely missed my list just because the strength of their wins. Didn't want to quite put them in there yet, but if a couple teams slip up, both those teams are probably going to be 3-0. I mean, who did the Panthers? Yeah, Panthers play the Texans, and the Broncos play the Jets, so they're both likely to be 3-0.
Panthers are playing Thursday night, so. All right, let me get started here. Let me just go from 11, I guess, because we just, Panthers are 11 for me. I was impressed with their win over the Saints only because I didn't think they would win. And I knew they were a good team, but I just didn't know how good. I just like this team. I like what they're doing. If they can stay healthy, this team can compete with anyone. They'll give Tampa a run for their money just in a I'm not saying they'd beat Tampa. I think they would just be competitive, especially how physical their defense looks. Their defense looks good.
That's what I wanted to point out. A lot of people talked about how they went all 7 picks on defense last year and their first pick on defense this year.
Yeah, it's paying off.
They really looked at it and said, look, it looks like we have an offense. We're going to revamp this defense. They've got corners, they've got DBs, they've got linebackers, and they're all coming up as a unit together, and they were stifling both weeks. They looked like they're going to, we talked about Sam Darnold potentially coming up, McCaffrey and the receivers, and how they're going to be great. There's going to be days they might score 17 and win a football game.
Legitimately, they have a very young, energetic defense. Not saying they're beating Tampa or not saying they're beating the Rams. They can play with anyone, though.
Number 1 in fantasy points. Anyone. They're the number 1 defense in fantasy right now. Still on the market for a lot of leagues, but they're number 1 in points.
All right, here we go. Top 10. Number 10, left them off last week. Actually, I think They might have hung around the bottom. Regardless, Ravens. Probably could be higher. They have the case for being higher. I think I shot them too far down. I knew that I was really high on them. Week 1 was a disaster for them. They lost all their running backs. They're on the road in a hostile environment, opening up a brand new stadium in a new city. Really was a lot to ask. If they really, now that I look back on it, I'm like, what? Why did I even think they had a chance to win that game? But then they go and at home and they beat their kryptonite. I'm super impressed with them. They should probably be higher, but there's just a lot of good teams right now. Ravens at 10. At 9, I'm not going to punish this team too much because literally next week, if they play the Titans again, I think they could beat them. Seattle, 1-1. I don't have the Titans higher than them. I think they're still better. Russell Wilson, I trust in. I'm kind of shocked, honestly, that they lost the game, but things happen. Number 8, I moved them down, and they haven't even lost yet. Things are getting serious. Let's just say that. 49ers. I was impressed with their win over the Eagles because of their injuries at running backs, except it happened during the game. The Ravens happened in practice. They had 2 or maybe even 3 injuries during a game at running back, and they still hung on to beat what looks to be a well-coached team with the Eagles. Even though I'm not high on the Eagles, it was still a good win. 7. They go from no respect to off my list to shooting up to 7. It's time. The Raiders. The Raiders at 7. Derek Carr. Derek Carr. That's the reason why. I mean,
that defensive coordinator edition is showing up. Forget the 2019 defense.
Yeah. I truly don't have. Let me say this. I have them at 7. Do I think they could beat anyone? Week to week, yes. Do I have this as a high aspiration of a team? I don't. I'm still not super bought in. But as of right now, do I think they can win their week 3 matchup against anybody in the league? Yes. Do I think they can win 5, 6 games in a row later on? No, I don't know. We'll see. But 7 for now.
Yeah, going with what I said on the Raiders, though, I just want to clear that up. We did talk. I just said about their defense being so much better. Again, we just talked about how the Ravens, leading up to the game against the Raiders, lost everybody, and Steelers bottom 5 offense in the league. They show sparks, but so they have played 2 offenses. We'll have to watch them closely going forward, but love what I'm seeing out of Las Vegas.
Yeah, I don't want. We can be very nitpicky to every team, and again, the Ravens were in a weird environment. The Steelers, I did tell you this off air. I don't love the Steelers offense. That's not going to be the reason they win any game this year.
No good.
Yeah, the Raiders are taking advantage and they're playing well. And to be honest, I think what I love the most about what they did against the Steelers, the deep ball to Henry Ruggs, like it just shows their top notch plays and their speed. And honestly, it's not a defense I thought they'd be able to get that from. So you guys took away Waller and Carr picked apart everything else. So 6, back to it. Buffalo Bills. Probably might be a hair low, but I'm really starting to sift through teams and who I like in a matchup. Buffalo comes back this week with a 35-0 win. I could see them beating any team any week, and I have high Super Bowl aspirations for them, so that's why I have them at 6. 5, Arizona at 2-0. I shot this team up the list this week, and I think a lot of people are probably like, really? They almost lost to the Vikings. First off, I've always liked the Vikings. I didn't have them as high as you at 12 wins, but I like the Vikings, and I thought they withstood a punch to the mouth from the Vikings and still won the game. I think that says a lot. They looked explosive offensively. They were a little off defensively, but if you really start to think of it, you've said this 2 weeks in a row. The Vikings are basically the Titans. Okay, they're very similar in a lot of ways, except the Vikings were able to capitalize on what the Tennessee should have capitalized on, and it was the corners. So, the one weakness of Arizona is the corners, and Vikings have 2 great receivers. Titans have 2 great receivers, but they didn't make anything of it. So I'm not going to beat them up. I love Arizona, their pass rush, their linebackers, and of course their offense. 4, it's Cleveland. I can't see anybody in my top 4 going much lower than 5 at any point this year. It would just shock me. The rosters are too talented. Cleveland at 4 is. I expected them to bounce back. They did. I was shocked that Tyrod Taylor hung in that game enough. Maybe that says more about Tyrod than it does Cleveland, but I guess we'll see. 3, Kansas City. I don't see Kansas City falling any farther than 3, though. I can't see a case in which that happens. They're just too freaking good. Can't believe Baltimore beat them. I would have not bet that, but yeah. Coming in at number 2, this team is going to obviously play for the number 1 spot this week on my list, but it's the Rams. Rams at 2. Stafford's been great. I didn't think that I thought they played a little down this week going against the Colts. I thought they were much better than the Colts, but it was a road game. It was a West Coast to East Coast at 1 o'clock. People don't realize how awful that is for a West Coast team. It's actually pretty hard in the bets. A lot of money goes on an East Coast game in that situation, and the Rams still won that game. So Rams 2-0, stay at 2 for me, and then number 1. I had this team number 1 week 1 last week. A lot would have to happen for me to take them from number 1. That's how good they are. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, company, you know it. So I gave you my 11th team. A couple teams I have on that bubble right underneath the Panthers, Broncos, Patriots. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited because this week the Steelers play at 1. And a lot of teams I like to watch do not play at 1. I get to see the Panthers on Thursday night. I get to see the Broncos at 4 and the Buccaneers-Rams game at 4. Sunday night, Packers, 49ers, Monday night, Eagles, Cowboys. I think there's a lot of good games this weekend in the what do you call it? On TV, like not on like televised games.
Televised, yeah. Cool. Well, another episode wrapped up. Everybody that tuned into the live show, thanks for your patience. We had a little technical difficulty there toward the end. Sometimes Facebook Live just wants to say, all right, you've had enough fun, and just boot you off. So I think we actually might do Spotify Green Room this week. I think it's more discussion. We'll see. We'll give you guys notice once we do decide. But heck, week 3, we're almost here.
Yes, sir.
All right, we will see you guys next time.
See ya.
Go Pats. Real talk.
Go Steelers.